A well-known YouTuber goes on trial for posting lewd, deepfake videos of hundreds of politicians and influencers. Asia's top security summit returns to Singapore. Will Japan's Prime Minister use his keynote speech to send a warning to China? A Slovakian delegation wraps up its visit to Taiwan. We ask what closer ties really mean for the country. Plus, Keelung City Expo 2022 opens for business. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Let's start with some news headlines from Taiwan and around the world. A YouTuber accused of using deepfake technology to produce lewd videos of Taiwanese politicians and influencers is on trial in New Taipei City. The case has renewed calls for Taiwan to look into legislation that specifically targets deepfake porn. Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick has this report.
For Kaohsiung City Councillor Huang Jie, this is a fight for justice. She traveled to Taipei for the trial of a famous YouTuber who distributed fake pornographic videos of her and over 100 other politicians and influencers.
到现在，我想到可能某一个网站，我们的影片都还在被观看，就是让我毛骨悚然。到现在想到都还是鸡皮疙瘩。再次强调，我绝对不会进行和解。那我希望这个案子一定要让小玉这个加害人要获得应有的惩处。
Huang was one of the victims of Zhu Yuzhan, also known by the moniker Xiao Yu. He and two assistants pocketed over $400,000 by selling subscriptions for the videos, produced using deepfake technology last year, and have been charged with distributing obscene materials. But Huang says the ordeal hasn't ended, as the videos can still be found online.
我们就去检举，然后要求下架。可是这种就是如蟑螂般的案件是不断的蔓延，你这边消除了第一个、第二个地方又还是会出现。
Instead of fighting to get each of these taken down, Huang says new laws are needed to specifically target sexual violence in cyberspace. Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
The first face-to-face meeting between US and Chinese defense chiefs since Joe Biden took office is set to take place this weekend. Lloyd Austin and Wei Fenghe will be among 500 senior defense officials from more than 40 countries attending the 19th Shangri-La Dialogue. On Friday night, Asia's leading security summit will be opened by Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in Singapore. The three-day event will include a video address by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and major speeches by Austin and Wei. I asked June Teufel-Dreyer, a political science professor at the University of Miami, whether Kishida will use his keynote address to send a message to China.
This is actually not the first time that a Japanese prime minister has been invited to address the group. I can think of at least once when former Prime Minister Abe Shinzo addressed the group and actually delivered a very hard-hitting address, which I don't believe it ever mentioned China, but China was implicitly in there. And I imagine Prime Minister Kishida's address will also allude to China. He will talk about attempts to rework the security architecture of the Asia Pacific. And there's only one country that's attempting to do that, and that's China.
Regional stability is obviously the goal of this summit. What will be the biggest issues discussed? Obviously, China will feature in that.
Biggest issues include China's BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, versus competing programs like the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And the United States, under the Biden administration, has adopted something it calls the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, which they say explicitly is not a free trade zone, which leaves a lot of people rather confused, because if it's not a free trade zone, but it is economic, then what is it going to do?
What do you think will be the message on each side in the bilateral talks between the US and China? What message will each side want to give the other?
Wei Fenghe will want to give the message that Taiwan is a core interest of China, that they will not back down on this, and that they are prepared to act if the United States steps over a red line. Nobody has ever defined what that red line is. We assume it's a formal declaration of independence, among other things, by Taiwan. There is no need for Taiwan to declare independence because Taiwan is already an independent sovereign state. In essence, the two sides are going to talk past each other. Lloyd Austin is not going to give in and say, yes, I agree that there is but one China and Taiwan is part of it, which is what Wei Fenghe would like to hear.
Professor, do you expect any deals or announcements to come out of this?
I expect that the only things that publicly will come out of these meetings are going to be more cliches on the need for peace and harmony and to keep the region stable, and that all sides should dialogue.
Taiwan saw a record 213 deaths from COVID-19 on Friday, the second day in a row that the daily death toll has been over 200. National Taiwan University professor Zhang Changquan, an expert in public health, says Taiwan is now second in the world in terms of the rate that COVID deaths are rising. He also says the country is likely to see COVID deaths double every 13 days. Japan has reopened its borders to tourists for the first time in 2 years. Tourists from nearly 100 countries are now allowed to enter the country, but there are strict conditions. These include rules that travellers be part of a package tour and avoid crowded places. Visitors must also buy medical insurance and always wear a mask in public. Businesses are hoping the tourism sector will recover as the country gradually reopens. A delegation led by the Deputy Speaker of Slovakia's Parliament, Milan Loracek, wraps up its 5-day visit to Taiwan on Friday. The group signed a judicial cooperation deal with Taiwan and visited the national legislature and Taiwanese companies. Rick Glauert spoke to Lin Zili at the Department of Political Science at Donghai University in Taichung. He began by asking what Taiwan stands to gain from closer ties with Slovakia.
I mean, it's not just Taiwan and also from Slovakia. And both of us, we are focused on, for example, Space Development Act, this kind of space industry. And also, we all know Taiwan, we are good in high-tech industry, and the more than that is semiconductor is our best, and the Slovakia, of course, they want to develop this similar area. So I think besides that, commercial is always important, business is always important. So blockchain, for example, is a very important area. So for the future, it's not only the virtual currency, it's also the best way to find the thing to do the marketing. I think in this new area, a lot of things we can work together and to find out the best future for us.
Why do you think Slovakia and Taiwan have found this friendship, this companionship?
I think mainly it's because the history, because, you know, in the past, and the Slovakia, they got the strength from Soviet Union, this communist empire. And the Taiwan, for a long time, we have the history with China. And the China, of course, is a communist region. So, and also, I think the young people, they have become a politician. And this kind of core value, similar age, will encourage us. And also, we are all small-sized country. It all encourage our politician, they can, you know, share the similar value. And the most interesting part is Taiwan and Slovakia, we all have female president. And I think because the history, this democratic value and the similar age to join the politics, I think it's all become a very important element to encourage us to have this kind of friendship.
What do the increasing frequency of delegations from like-minded countries, particularly in Europe or the US, what do they mean for Taiwan?
We are isolated from this freedom world, and this is very important to encourage Taiwanese people that we have although we don't have the official recognition, but this kind of friendship, this kind of visiting will encourage Taiwanese to against China, because we don't follow Chinese value. We don't believe that to become part of China will have the future. We still cherish our freedom. And with the help from the other democratic country, and it is really meaningful and useful.
China and Russia have defended their vetoes of a US-backed UN resolution that would have imposed new sanctions on North Korea. It's the first time that permanent members of the Security Council have needed to explain their veto following new rules that were introduced in April. Russia and China blamed the US for rising tensions on the Korean peninsula and said what's needed now is dialogue between Pyongyang and Washington. Pyongyang has conducted a record 18 rounds of missile tests this year. A Russian proxy court in eastern Ukraine has sentenced 2 Britons and a Moroccan to death. Russian forces captured the 3 men while they were fighting for Ukraine. The court found the 3 men guilty of mercenary activities and working to overthrow the Russia-backed Donetsk People's Republic. Both the UK and Ukrainian governments have condemned the sentences. The 2022 City Expo has opened in Keelung, Taiwan's northernmost city. The event celebrates Keelung's 400-year-old history with food, art and performances. Wei Zhonglu reports.
An upbeat start to the 2022 City Expo in Keelung that's all about celebrating local history. Among the officials at the opening ceremony, President Tsai Ing-wen and Premier Su Zhenchang.
从今天开始到6月19号，整个基隆市就是一个大展场。那么这是基隆作为台湾头的气魄，大家可以透过展览来了解基隆这几年的改变和发展，以及如何翻转城市命运的一个典范。
The port city of Keelung is located in northern Taiwan, next to the capital city, Taipei. The city dates back 400 years and was home to the country's biggest port during the Japanese colonial period. These days, Keelung is overshadowed by its better-known neighbor, but it's hoped this expo could change that and spark new interest in what the city has to offer.
3个主展场各有不同的主题。 市中心区是以市港再生，我们希望呈现出一个台湾的海港城市，一个新的都市发展的典范。在 B 展区，我们是以文化跟历史为核心，作为改造城市的一个杠杆跟起点。另外，在 C 展区是以永续、以生态、以科学作为策展的一个主题。
Light shows, art exhibitions, and theater performances will be held throughout the event. You can even see an exhibition on a boat sailing on the ocean. The expo was supposed to be held last year, but it had to be postponed because of COVID-19. Keelung's mayor says this expo represents life post-pandemic and hopes the event will bring renewed recognition to the city. James Rayner, Wei Zhonglu for TaiwanPlus.
US business travel magazine Global Traveler has named Taipei the best leisure destination in Asia for a 5th consecutive year. In the magazine's annual Leisure Lifestyle Awards, Taipei beat Seoul, Phuket and Tokyo for the top spot. Taiwan was also named the 2nd best international adventure travel destination after India. And Taiwan's international gateway, Taoyuan International Airport, was voted the 4th best airport in the world for a layover. The rankings are based on votes from Global Traveler's 500,000 subscribers. Coming up after the break, a special program hosted by Joey Cho about traditional art in Taiwan.
The reason I do the teaching to high school students, I think our high school textbook of social sciences is poorly written. My feeling is when I read those texts, I don't want to be a social scientist anymore.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So my joke was that those textbooks were written by Fei.
I see.
Taiwan's diplomat may be the most frustrating job in the world. They give us pressure, never allowed us to use Taiwan in any place, in our business cards, in our letterhead, anything.
I'm Cyrus, see you on TaiwanPlus.
I'm Audrey Tong, see you on TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus. For more great news from Taiwan and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.
Okay, there's a couple here. There's one here. You see, 2, 3. 到目前的为止，大概6次而已啊，真的不多。赚不到钱了，要钱也不够啊。来了，你看，又来了。I'm going to prepare them in a more European way. I'm going to smoke these eels. The best part, put it in your mouth.
Welcome back. You're watching Taiwan Plus News. Up next, we bring you a special program hosted by Joey Cho that delves into the many ways that Taiwan is infusing the traditional arts with new life.
And in today's special edition of Taiwan Plus News, a look at traditional culture in modern-day Taiwan. Strobe lights and projectors may not be the first things that come to mind when you think of puppet theater, but one group in Taiwan is hoping to breathe new life into the traditional art with modern technology. Philip Broussard has this story.
With its neon flashing lights and cool sound effects, it would be easy to mistake this scene for a modern concert. And that's just what the Shinergy Puppet Show was hoping for. The theater group uses modern technology, like projection mapping, to update Taiwan's traditional puppet theater for a contemporary audience.
布袋戏它以前也是一个奇观一样的存在，他不觉得戏友可以演得这么活。可是对于现在的人来讲，他已经看过所有的，他已经被很多电影刺激过了，所以呢，我们必须要给他创造另外一个奇观。
Puppet theater is an important part of Taiwan's culture, with a history that goes back to the 17th century. The hope is that with a modern approach, the traditional art form can continue long into the future.
这种做法以后对我们布袋戏前途比较看好。现在的传统布袋戏已经走到那个家父病房了，观众一直少下去。传统艺术一定要保留，创新技术要传永久。
The Taiwanese public will get their first glimpse of the Shinergy Puppet Show over the New Year holidays, and the group hopes to eventually bring their performance to a global audience. Kama Xu and Philip Broussard for Taiwan Plus.
A unique umbrella dance is a key part of temple ceremonies in Taiwan's Penghu archipelago. But as Louise Watt reports, with young people leaving these relatively remote islands for opportunities elsewhere, umbrella dancers worry that this martial art-inspired culture could disappear.
Embroidered umbrellas, and a martial arts-inspired dance. At this Confucius temple in Penghu, Xu Xiaoheng leads traditional art club members in a colourful custom to protect deities from evil spirits. It's an art form that dates back hundreds of years with roots in China.
但是传过来，澎湖又把它加入了武术这些步功套路，所以会变得更有特色。
On evenings and weekends, Xu passes on the temple dancing tradition that he's learnt from an 85-year-old master. He started his own traditional arts club because he worries the skill is slipping away. 65-year-old Yang Youming has been attending dance sessions for 6 years.
这是两伞里面最高级的动作。
But with few students in their 20s and 30s, club members hope to attract younger dancers to keep the art alive.
能够希望从这个年龄比较大的学会了，然后来教导这些小朋友，慢慢的从小扎根，希望不要有断层的这种情形。
Just over 100,000 people live in Penghu, a quarter of whom are over 60, a larger proportion than Taiwan as a whole. With little industry here but fishing and tourism, Penghu's young tend to head to the Taiwanese mainland to study and work. But some stay and work in tourism or restaurants. A number take over the family business. Liu Mingzhang is the 4th generation to run a shop making salted biscuits unique to Penghu. He says traditional culture is often lost because tastes change.
而且你要多听听一些年轻人的一些想法，因为你传统的东西会越来越被淘汰，可是你必须要加入一些新的元素，才能让这个旧的产品有新的生命，这样子。 才有可能把旧的文化保存下来。
The Umbrella Dancing Club is working to keep the interest of the young who stay in Penghu.
最好玩的地方就是可以学到武功，还有运动，跟认识澎湖的文化。
With keen young members like that, Xu is optimistic his club can keep the art going.
大家一起出来表演。 让大家都能看到，就这个技术就会一直推广啊，就避免它失传。
With each step they take, young and old are doing their bit to keep Penghu's traditions alive. Patrick Chen and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Incense plays an important part in Taiwan's religious practices, and Keelung has been making it by hand for over 4 decades. But the industry is under threat due to environmental and health concerns. We take a look at how Lin continues practicing his craft even as times change.
24歲開始做，開始學做香，你下來為40年嚟。 我哋下64歲，我新中人，因為啊，呢讀書就唔係講錢財啦，去工廠做，全冇賣錢啦。將來講係講去投保養啊嘛，係咪冇法度腳咧都成年啦？哦，所以我就拼命藝術同佢學做香，像呢叫全家都錢，呢叫改善，你係冇害件事啊，呢叫國家。 好好嘅熱到人啦！過年嗰段時間，家家戶戶全部去燒香，學跪天公啊！所以嗰下最辛苦喺個跳過，又當佢落水要摸嗰種嘅配香嘅機器啊！所以特別為到咧做香做到，連阿冇跳都冇轉冇下水冇知道嘅做自動街就舞台今年都係水落天光，3年就做香。 但是過年是最辛苦嘅時間啦，因為我公家就開始做香，啊，我細嘅時間，同咧過年過節嘅時間，我聽人講嗬，去年市場茶，攞去填仔香，喺國家都禁止啊，再到內灣檢查嘅地落去買，所以差唔多特別到3點鐘就行。 生意哦，你一下嚟嗰度幾日唔上學咧，就啱辛苦啊！ 做到柜面舞蹈直达啊，吼。遐香薰啊，多多少少啊，一定会吸收到遐肺部去啊，所以哦，对遐肺部啊，多少会有影响啊。所以你看，你遐两个来去到马上会做俩。遐下烧金纸的人，我也烧咧，吼，所以有到太庙金纸嘅也冇烧啦，吼。所以你讲单单唔系香吼，每次。个香店吼，韩国个一只家庭啊，好难啊。所以你还会多方面的竞争啦，哦，这样咧维持个香店。因为吼，我哋卖香啊，吼，啊尽量每种香水的啦，所以全部同嗰种嘅中药啦，吼，哎呀，老山粉啊、新山粉啦，吼。还有雪梨啦，还有桂香啦，还有少南啦，吼，咧都去做的香，大陆喺度种药啊，可以夹的个料啊，因皮肤啊，好唔会伤到身体啊，吼，对你对大家都好啦，所以喺度做的香吼，也要拿去检查，好唔会讲有问题。
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Finally today, we leave you with images of an Egyptian artist using unusual materials to create portraits, such as sunlight, sand and fried eggs. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.